Run, party, repeat. Welcome to the East Coast Adventures Dirt and Vert Podcast, where we talk all things running, racing, and training to help you get ready for your next big adventures.
Learn from our successes and our failures, and have fun at the same time. Join us right here every week with inspiring guests who share their captivating tales from the trails. And remember, nobody cares.
Run faster. All right, welcome back to the Dirt and Vert Podcast. I'm David.
And I'm Matt.
And we have a endurance runner with us today, Alicia McClary. Now, Alicia is an ultra runner that I got the pleasure of meeting at a race that you've obviously heard me talk about on this podcast, OBU, Ohio Backyard Ultra. Michael Owen is it Owen or Owens?
Owen
Is the race director. He's a great race director, by the way. So shout out to him. But I actually got to meet Alicia at that race, and that's also, the podcast cover that you sent, Alicia. I had forgot that picture was even taken when we shared it. But I was like, me, Tara, and Alicia all running in that crazy weather, which we'll talk about later in this podcast, because I have to ask everybody that has ran in this race if they saw what I saw that night. But we'll skip on past that.
I already know what you're going to say, and I actually personally know that person.
We're going to learn more as we get into this.
I know what you're talking about.
So, Alicia, if you care, tell us a little bit about who you are and how you got into running.
All right. My name is Alicia McClary. My former name is Alicia Bowling, so on my ultra sign up, it's Bowling because I'm a slacker and I haven't changed my name on anything yet. But I started running when I was 30. I ran my first 5K at the age of 30. When I was in my early 20s, I was diagnosed with cancer after my little girl was born. And so my whole 20s was mostly spent doing surgeries and chemotherapy. I had to do chemotherapy for a year. And then after I had my son, I was diagnosed. I had 2 more recurrences of cancer, and it was stage 3 melanoma. So it spread to my lymph nodes, and I had to have a bunch of lymph nodes from my left groin removed. And then one of my coworkers he was a nurse in the ER. He was also diagnosed with the same kind of cancer, but he was a runner. He would run, and he also mountain bike, and he was 33 years old. His cancer progressed to stage 4. It spread to his liver, his lungs, his bones. And when he was in hospice care, because his cancer was terminal, he told me, he said, because we both did the same types of treatments and surgeries, and he told me, he said, you're going to beat this. And he said, when you get finished, I want you to run a 5K, do it in my memory. And so that's kind of after he passed away, that was kind of what spurred me to start running. I had a little bit of that survivor's guilt. We were both young, and he didn't survive, and I did. And I wasn't a runner. I had a gymnastics background. I cheered in college, but I'd never ran. It just seemed redundant and boring. But I signed up for the Couch to 5K program, and within 4 weeks, I did my first 5K. So, and basically my motto, I had a little shirt made that said "Showing Cancer Who's Boss," and then I had his name put on the back of it.
Well, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So when you started that, you were early 30s?
Yeah, I ran my first 5K when I was 30, and I'm 42 now, so.
And then you were diagnosed with cancer early in your 20s?
Yeah, I was 24 years old. My little girl was 8 months old when I was diagnosed. I've had this, I don't know if most people know what melanoma is. It's a form of skin cancer, but it's a deadly form of skin cancer, obviously. When I was first diagnosed, I knew what melanoma was because I'm an ultrasound technologist, and so I do ultrasound of lymph nodes. I look for cancerous lymph nodes. It's part of my job. And when I was pregnant, I noticed this, I guess you would call it a mole. It was a new lesion that had showed up on my hip. It was red, dome-shaped, and then it would start bleeding and scabbing over. Who thinks of something on your skin as being something serious that could kill you? I just overlooked it, went on about the pregnancy, had my baby, and I called and finally made an appointment because this thing didn't go away. And it was getting bigger, and then I started feeling these big golf ball-sized lymph nodes in my groin. And I was like, okay. I actually ended up scanning myself, ultrasound, and I'm like, these look like cancerous lymph nodes. They don't look good. So I ended up going to the doctor, getting the biopsy. I had the biopsy done on a Monday. The doctor calls me on a Wednesday. I was in surgery by Friday. Like, things don't normally happen that quick, but it was pretty, aggressive, and I was young, and I guess they wanted to try to get it treated as soon as possible.
That was your daughter. So you were 8 months after she was born?
Yeah, I waited a little too late, too long.
And you had that while you were during the pregnancy?
Yes, this spot showed up during the pregnancy, went through the entire pregnancy, just, not thinking something on your skin is that serious. And then after the pregnancy, I noticed the enlarged lymph nodes, and then decided, let me take a look with my ultrasound machine, and yeah, these don't look good, but it takes a bit to get in. I think I called maybe in the summer, and it was in September when they finally got me in, so.
Well, thank goodness you could do your own scan like that.
Yeah.
So then you go through, I guess, you go through chemo then?
Yes, the treatment I was on, it was a type of immunotherapy called alpha interferon 2B. And at that time when I was diagnosed, it was the only treatment for stage 3 melanoma. There was no other treatment. It was either you do this, you get in a clinical trial, or you watch and wait. And so that was my options. And I'm not the watch and wait kind of person. I like to do something. But it had horrible side effects. Since it kind of revs up your immune system to help you fight the cancer, you run a fever every day. So I did this treatment for a year. It makes you feel like you have the flu for a year. So you run these 104 fevers, you have bone pain, and it makes your hemoglobin low, so you feel lethargic all the time. And it makes your white count low. I had to take these shots that were over $1,000 every week. That was to build my blood counts so that I wouldn't have to get a blood transfusion. So it was pretty intense year.
Yeah. And all chemo seems to be like all side effects.
Yeah, they're going to make you feel terrible.
I would imagine nausea.
Well, you just don't want to eat. You just don't have an appetite. I know when I was going through my treatments, I weighed 97 pounds, and I was normally like 115, so you just don't want to eat.
So you go through that, and is that when you met the gentleman that you were working, or is that?
He was already a coworker of mine. I was actually diagnosed first. And then I'd went through my year of treatment, and then he comes to me and he's like, I just had this mole biopsied, and they said that it was melanoma. It's in my lymph nodes. And so he was the same stage as me for a while. And then when he went for his 6-month follow-up scan, it had spread. Mm-hmm. First it spread to his lung, and then he had a lung resection done. And we did all kinds of benefits for him to try to help raise money for him, because cancer treatment is not cheap. Even if you have health insurance, it's expensive. And then the next 6-month scan it was just aggressive. It was everywhere. It was in his bones and his liver. I remember he came into the ER one night as a patient, and I was working night shift as an ultrasound tech at the same hospital at that time, and I had to scan his liver, and I saw all those lesions. It was terrible.
Yeah. So then you all go through some of the treatment together. This is a long battle at that point. Like you go through it for a year, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
How long did he continue to fight it?
Once he was diagnosed, his cancer progressed really fast. So once he was diagnosed, I had a period of time, thankfully, so that I could help him where I was not on treatment. I'd finished my year, and then it was like he got diagnosed, and I was having a period where everything was stable. So he actually had already passed away by the time I had my second and third recurrence. So at the time when he was going through the trenches of it, I was able to be there for him and his mom and his family. So.
And then he asked you to run a 5K.
Yeah, I remember when he was in hospice, We thought he was asleep. He had a good sense of humor. He was funny. He wanted to plan his entire funeral, and he wanted to be cremated, but he was a sharp dressed man. Like, he wanted to have this really nice suit, and he wanted to have a funeral, but he also wanted to be cremated and have us spread his ashes. Probably not supposed to say this, but over at Lake Vesuvius, Ohio, where we trail run. But he was planning his funeral earlier that day, and I was sitting there with his mom, and I thought he was asleep, and his mom was crying, and, we were going on. I was comforting her, and he sits up in bed, and he's like, would you guys put a sock in it? I'm not dead yet. Quit crying. Like, he just, I don't know, he had a good sense of humor. And then he wanted me to do his eulogy, speak at his funeral. He still wanted to have a funeral, but he wanted to be cremated afterwards. So, but yeah.
So then, okay. So fast forward, then you have your son.
Mm-hmm.
And then it comes back?
Yeah, I have 2 more recurrences after my son. And then at that point, I went to Vanderbilt Ingram Cancer Center. That was where my oncologist is. And then at that point, he told me, we believe that the pregnancies, since your immune system lowers when you're pregnant so that you don't abort your baby, so you don't have a miscarriage. So he believed that when my immune system lowered to protect the pregnancy, that the cancer, any dormant cancer cells would then spread. And that's what was happening. So at that point, he was like, okay, after this pregnancy, do not have any more pregnancies. So then I got sterilized so that wouldn't happen anymore.
And then you didn't. Did you get it? Did you have the third recurrence?
No, I've had 2 recurrences after my son, and those were pretty close back to back.
Okay.
But after that, I have not had a recurrence since 2012.
Oh, that's
been
great.
Healthy. And so after that is when I started doing the Couch to 5K program.
Okay, so let's hear about this Couch to 5K program.
I just got one of those.
Sounds like without a Couch to 5K program.
Wait till you hear about my Couch to 50 mile. Just kidding. Yeah, I had a friend. She was a runner, and she was like, just download this app. It'll tell you run for, a minute or 2, and then you walk for a minute or 2. And, I started out in the park here in Ashland. I live in Ashland, Kentucky. I don't think I said that in the beginning. But we have a really nice park here, and it's like 1.2 mile loop. And so I started out just doing that little loop, walking it until, make the walk break shorter. But my first 5K was 30 minutes. It was not blowing any records out of the by any means, but I finished it. So
30 minutes is respectable.
That's pretty
for
good
your
time.
first
Yeah.
5K.
Yeah.
I don't think my first 5K went very well.
Oh, it was rough. I couldn't imagine. You know how it is the first time you ever do a distance, and you're like, how can anybody go any farther than that? Like, these people are crazy. Like, I had a friend who had blue toenails, from running. And I'm like, now I get it. But at the time, I'm like, this person's crazy. Like, who runs till their toenails turn blue?
So was this just a local 5K?
Mm-hmm. Well, I actually went to Charlotte, North Carolina for that 5K, and it was actually for melanoma. It was
that's awesome.
The Melanoma Research Foundation had a 5K.
And you wore the shirt.
Yes, I wore the shirt showing Cancer Who's Boss, and then I had my friend Joe's name on the back.
You still have the shirt?
I do. It's somewhere in my closet. Yeah.
So how did that experience go? Obviously, something clicked for you to continue because, obviously I've ran some races with you. So what did you kind of get hooked at that point, or was it more of like, okay, I'm just going to try this again? That was terrible.
Once I did it, I wanted to get a little bit faster. I have a kind of a competitive background where I did gymnastics, and I cheered in college. I cheered at Morehead State University. I don't like half-assing things. I have been this year, but I don't typically like to do that. So, who doesn't want to get better? It took me a long time, though. Like, it took me a really long time, it felt like, because I felt like the body I was starting with was so, depleted. So I had to be patient. I saw people running, 20-minute and sub 20-minute 5Ks, and I'm like, I want to be able to do that, and then, but that doesn't happen overnight. You have takes a lot of consistency and speed work that we don't always want to do, but that's what you have to do to get faster. Then I did my first half marathon and then went to a marathon. And then I had a friend that I started running with, and he's from Huntington, West Virginia. And he was the one that kind of got me and told me to try to do an ultra after I did my first marathon. So I did my first trail race was a trail marathon. It was Big Turtle in Moorhead, Kentucky. Well, the first year they had a marathon, a 50K, and a 50 miler. And then I think now it's they might have a 10 miler, 50K, 50 miler, but they don't have the marathon distance anymore. I think might have been the only year they had it, was the first year. So that was pretty cool. And then Thunder Bunny, which is also a Michael Owen race, was my first 50K in Athens, Ohio. And I ran it step by step with my friend Annie. And, basically I got into running just for the socialization and just to see how far I could go and just show cancer who's boss.
Love it. And I assume Ohio is probably pretty close for you.
It is. Ashland, it's tri-state area. It's West Virginia. I actually work in West Virginia, which is about 30 minutes from my house. I work at the VA there in West Virginia. And then, Ohio, Kentucky, West Virginia. I'm in that little section there.
No, cool. So what is Thunder Bunny? Because that's a pretty catchy name.
I mean, Michael Owen is genius. That's a smart name.
He is. Yeah, it's kind of like the little Thunder Bunny symbol. It kind of looks like a little Sonic the Hedgehog Thunder Bunny. I don't know. It's a little bunny that's like electrified or something. He's kind of cool looking. But yeah, a group of us girls went up there and ran that race. That was my first 50K. And I actually went back and ran it again. Might have been 2023, maybe. Yeah.
Yep.
So.
She won it that year.
Yeah, look at that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So how did so you do the marathon, you do the Big Turtle, and then you do Thunder Bunny. And when you did Thunder Bunny, obviously if you just did a trail marathon, it probably wasn't that big of a jump for you.
Mm-mm.
Usually if you do a road marathon, then you go try to do a 50K trail. It's like, oh, that's completely different. But you're doing a trail. You were already there, kind of.
Yeah. Well, I had this goal. The reason I did the trail marathon and then the trail 50K was I wanted to sign up for something that scared me that year. Like that was 2017, and it was my first time trying to, I don't know, branch out from the road stuff. And I signed up for Highland Sky 40 miler. And so the whole purpose of doing the Big Turtle and then doing Thunder Bunny was to prepare me for Highland Sky, which I have not been back. I want to go back and do that race. My calendar just didn't work out for me to be able to do it since then because, that was the first time I'd ever done anything. It runs more like a 50 miler. It is a tough race. It's in Canaan Valley, West Virginia. Absolutely beautiful country. I highly recommend that race. It's gorgeous. It's rocky. There's a rocky section, but then there's a road across the sky section where you can make up some time if you're fast.
Yeah, that's awesome because I've actually never heard of Highland Sky. I've
Mm-hmm.
heard of, obviously, I get plenty of Michael's emails for OBU, so I've seen Thunder stuff. And Big Turtle, I actually ran more.
Highland Sky, Dan Lehman, I'm not sure if I'm even saying his last name correctly. He is the race director for Highland Sky. It's the West Virginia Trail Runners Association group, and they also have Canal Trace is in with that group, but Bob Luther is the race director for Canal Trace.
Okay.
And I don't know if you know that name or not, but he is a phenomenal trail runner as well. I had a chance to run with him some. When Josh Laker lived in the Huntington area, I used to train with him some. A lot of these people really helped shape me to be a better trail runner. I'm not great by any means, but they definitely helped me.
You say you're not great. You've got some podiums on here. I would say you're doing something right.
Well, thank you.
So let's talk about. So it looks like you did the 40 miler, and then you do the Kanawha Trail or Trace Trail Run, and then you sign up for Damn Yeti, and that's probably a little bit different for you because that's more speed on that course.
It is. Let me tell you about that race. I went into that race underestimating it. And I had shingles, a stomach virus, that combination, like a couple days before that race, still had the active shingles and was severely dehydrated. But because a friend was with me, my friend Annie, the same one that did Thunder Bunny with me, she was doing the 50 miler that day and I was doing the 50K. I should have not ran that race. I should have DNS'd it. Should not have ran it. I was sick that morning, should not have ran. But I did, I shuttled up there to White Top and ran down it, hammered that hill. My quads were dead. And then I didn't drink well and I was having GI issues. And I met an awesome girl named Kelly Boone. She's from somewhere in North Carolina. I cannot remember where, and I haven't talked to her in forever. It's the first time I've actually, her name just came to my mind thinking about it. But we ran together the last section to the finish line, like side by side. She was awesome. And I told her, I was like, I'm so sick. So, she got me water and helped me hydrate. But the next day after Damn Yeti, my kid was doing, it was this K for ARF Foundation. It was for her beta club. And she's like, Mom, you have to do this race. And I'm like, my legs are I'm like, I can't hardly get out of bed. My legs hurt so bad. Well, I go run this 5K. And when I was finished, I tried to go to the bathroom. I couldn't pee. I peed like a shot glass of blood. So I called my friend that's a doctor. You know where this is going.
Yeah.
I had Rhabdo. And it was from, I'm assuming my doctor, he's a runner too, but he was like, perfect storm. You didn't, you shouldn't have ran the race. You were dehydrated. You have shingles, active shingles right now. You shouldn't have done a 50K. I was like, but it was not, a mountainous 50K. It wasn't like I could get it done quicker. Didn't matter. So I was in the hospital for like 5 days getting bags of IV fluids until my kidneys woke back up. So
yeah, Rhabdo is no fun.
It is not fun. And then the return to sport after Rhabdo, if anybody listening has dealt with Rhabdo, you can't just jump back into running. I mean, your muscle, it hit my quads. That's what I damaged. I mean, you can't just jump back in there. I'm sure. Have you guys had it?
So Matt's laughing because
he had Rhabdo in January, and then February we did a last person standing together. And he goes out and puts up 60-something miles and gets second place, but
no, like
it was not a good idea.
No,
so I'll say that.
Not.
Like, Rhabdo is one of those things where you've obviously, it's created because your body
damaged.
You can't your creatinine level's too high, your kidneys are overloaded, you're breaking down muscle at that point and your kidneys just can't keep up. So obviously you've done damage. But I go to the hospital, same thing. It's you can't do anything for a while. So like I got her doing yoga and like tear something in my like side. Like I don't even know what happened there. Like I told Mary, I was like, oh, something ripped. I was like, I couldn't even do yoga. Like I had to wait on that. But then, a couple weeks I start running, then sign up for that last man standing, which is Elsie. It's one of our favorites.
It's one of our favorites.
But you got to do it, right?
And I did it, but like, man, it's kind of like how you felt going into Yeti. Like when you're sick, you have no energy. Like you're
zapped.
So I do this race in like mile 50. Like I'm just like, gosh. And then, I just kept kind of going and finally I just timed out. But from that, I had the hardest year. I mean, my hips were so screwed up from like the muscles and stuff because I had it in like my glutes and stuff and calves. It all happened to me in one of John Harden's races, Black Toe. I was 12 hours into that race and it had started that morning and I just kept running and kept running and kept running. And like my body was just like seizing. And I stopped at hour 12 and I just looked at Mary and I said, we should stop and you should take me to the hospital because something's not right. And, that's when we found out I had rhabdo. But
It's a weird feeling, like almost like you're talking about, like almost like a little electrical shocks or something in the muscles, and you almost can't, you just can't form a stride anymore, and everything just hurts so bad. But, like I've talked to other people who've had rhabdo, and it's not always in an ultra or a CrossFit workout. Like, it could just be you're sick or your body's fighting something, and then you go do a race, and it just hits you. And so I don't know necessarily that you can really completely prevent it, because you don't always know, because we ignore things so much. You don't always know that your body's fighting something until you get out there in the middle of a race and you're like, oh, okay, this is what's up. You know?
Absolutely. And, the thing about it is like my urine was clear. Yeah, there was no sign of like me being in rhabdo.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just really interesting on that part, because like I never would have thought in a million years I was in rhabdo. I thought there was something else wrong. But the thing about it is like, and I wonder, I was curious if you were the same way. Like, even when I done my first like race, if I had anything that felt weird, I'm like, oh shit, I'm in rhabdo. Like, oh no.
Yeah, I was questioning everything.
Yeah, I was like, oh, I'm in rhabdo.
Well, in fact, Lenny paced me. I did Tuscazor 100 miler. Was that I think it was September 2022. And I was 50 miles into that race, and I started peeing blood. And in fact, we went back to because it was a 25-mile loop race. And when I got back to the start-finish area at 50 miles, I was peeing blood. And Eric Whittington is the race director of that race. And he was like, I thought I was going to need to drop out. I thought I was maybe having a rhabdo moment. Lenny thought I was. Let's put it that way. Lenny thought I was having a rhabdo moment, because he saw me. He said it looked, his words when he tells everybody this story, he said, when Alicia went to pee on the trail and I watched her, because she said she was just peeing a little bit of blood and I wanted to see, because he didn't believe me. He was like, it looked like somebody gut a deer on the trail. And that's what he says. Now, I think he's being exaggerating, but he made me, go to Eric Whittington and say, I probably need to drop out of the race. He had me sit down. Eric didn't want me to drop out because he's trying to get this race to be a Western States qualifier, and you need so many finishers, right? So I just sat down. He said, just drink some hoist and pump some fluids in you, and then keep checking your pee. Maybe it'll clear up, because it was a humid day. And so that's what I did. And it was like an hour and 45 minutes. Like, I sat down at the start finish area just drinking fluids, and then I go pee, and I'm like, oh, it's clearing up. It's not as bad. And then I just kept pumping, and finally I'm like, okay, Lenny, get your shit. We're going. So, and I got back out there and was able to actually finish that race. But it was just like, I think I had just a UTI or bladder slapping that was causing it. But yeah, I didn't have any quad pain or any leg pain. So I kept saying, I know this isn't rhabdo. Like, I know the difference now. Like, this is something else.
So I have a question here. You mentioned hoist.
Mm-hmm.
Not many other people that we talk to on here know what hoist is, because that's
Well,
our sponsor for all of our events. Hoist Hydration
Really?
we use.
Well, I love it. That was what Eric Whittington uses for his race. He used it at Eagle. He's also the director of Eagle Up Ultra and Tuscazor. Those are the two races I've done that he's race directed. And at both of those races, he uses hoist. I think he is a military background. I think a lot of military guys, actually one of my running partners that I run with currently, Tanner Lee, you've probably heard of him because he won Ohio's Backyard 2020. And he likes to drink hoist as well. So that's kind of how I know about it. But it's good stuff. Like, I can feel a difference when I drink it.
Oh, I love it. I mean,
I
that's
like the flavor of it too. So, I mean, it's one thing to fuel with something that you're like, okay, yeah, it makes me feel better, but I don't like the taste of it. It tastes good and it works.
So what is your favorite flavor?
What is the one? It's like watermelon, something other, or green apple.
It's the green
the green one. What is that one?
It should be watermelon.
It's watermelon. Okay, I thought it was watermelon.
I'm a blue raspberry. Blue raspberry.
I don't think I've tried blue raspberry. I'll have to give that a try.
I can drink it for hours. For my first 100, I think me
Mhm.
and Mike down there at the Stinger, we went and bought cases of this, and that's what we used for our whole 100 was just blue oyster. It was good, but we get the powder, so we get like the orange and I think the fruit punch and stuff is what we use at the races.
Yeah, watermelon is definitely, I think that's the only one that I've tried. Well, he had little cups of different ones and they had their containers, and I'm pretty sure I tried all of them, but then I just kept going to the watermelon one. So I'm not sure what all other flavors there was there, but the watermelon was definitely my pick.
Because they're based out of I think Ohio.
Yeah.
So that makes sense that they're up there a lot.
Mhm.
Yeah. So you took how long of a break?
It's like an hour and 45 minutes, almost 2 hour break for that race.
And you won?
Mhm.
In right under 27 hours.
Hey, so has that got a lot of elevation? Because I don't know much about that race. I've heard of it, but I don't really know anything about it.
There's a trail section that has a lot of elevation. I can't remember exactly how much elevation I ended up having on that 100-miler. But there's also like a canal section that was out and back. That was you could build some speed off of. Like I was doing pretty well up until 50 miles and then had to sit out for a minute. I mean, I called my friend Jeff, my other training partner, and I told him, I said, well, I think I'm going to have to drop. And I don't like to quit. I mean, nobody likes to quit, obviously. That's why we do this stuff, but sometimes you have things that happen that it's necessary, obviously, I mean, you just experienced that too. So but this was a moment where I was able to rebound from the situation and finish. So
Yeah, that's one of those where you're proud of, hanging in there, but it's also one of those where you don't know what
if
the right
I
position is.
thought it was Rhabdo, I promise you, I would have stopped on that one. I would have.
So how long of a break did you have between Yeti and Rhabdo and Tuscan?
It was several years. I think it was 2018 maybe, or yeah, it was 2018 when I had Rhabdo. And then 2022 was when I did Tuscazor.
And it was still in your head. See, that's
Oh yeah.
never
I always think about it, and I try to really pregame with hydration, like not just water, but alternating my electrolytes, because it's something I'm always thinking about. Like if there's something I can control, it's my hydration. Like pre-gaming before you get ready to do an ultra, not just during it.
that week leading up to it, hydration is extremely important.
Yep.
So
Mm-hmm.
I learned that the hard way too. So
Yes.
yeah, and mine, like my rhabdo was just like cramps, severe cramps from
Mm-hmm.
basically my glutes all the way down to my feet, and it just like
Yeah, and it's like like your whole muscles just convulsing and twitching, and it's such a weird thing.
Yeah. And it's uncontrollable,
Mm-hmm.
and that's when you start realizing like, okay, something's not right. But
Well, my doctor had me take magnesium too. That was something I just wasn't supplementing with anything. I was just running and thinking, do whatever. It doesn't matter if you're sick I mean, I wasn't taking any vitamins,
Yeah.
So it's definitely a learning experience.
Was Tuscazor your first 100?
It was my first actual, like, I'm signing up to do a 100-mile distance outside of the backyard format. So yeah, that was my first one.
Okay, well let's take a step back then.
Mm-hmm.
I want to go back to, so you did, Damn Yeti, and you do the 50K, you get Rhabdo, obviously the next day in a 5K too.
Mm-hmm.
But then you just fast forward a little bit, you do the Ohio Backyard Ultra, and that's 2 years, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
You get 83 miles there, and then the following year you go back and get 108.
Mm-hmm.
But my question would be, that's a huge step up to that very first backyard ultra, like 80 miles, 85
Mm-hmm.
miles. How did that go? And what did you like? How was that whole experience for you? And that was obviously your first backyard ultra too.
It was. I actually, in 2019, I had signed up for Ohio's Backyard Ultra because Lucasville is only 45 minutes from my house. And so it's like, it literally is in my backyard. And I wanted to do it, but my kids both were sick. And the day before, it was like the day before the race, I had to email Michael Owen. And I'm like, I'm so sorry, but I'm not going to be able to go to this race. So it was my first DNS. And so I just remember watching it online, like trying to get the updates of how everybody was doing. And so I was just determined the next year to do it, was training in 2020 when COVID hit. 2020 is really when I started getting competitive, not with other people as much, but with myself. I just wanted to better myself. I wanted to be as strong as I could be. And so when COVID hit, lots of races got canceled, and Backyard Ultra was supposed to happen in March of 2020. So then it got moved to November of 2020. So that's why it was in November. And there was only one other race that I could find that was happening, and it was a Shelbyville race, like Run for Dreams, in Kentucky. And I was like, well, I'm going to sign up for the 12-hour and see how far I can get. And it was like, I can't remember how many miles. It was 50 something that I did. Oh yeah. So, and that was my first time ever going that far. And then went into Backyard Ultra. I was running with Tanner at that time and started doing back-to-back long runs on Saturday. We got to this place called Hanging Rock, and it's the strip mines. And we would run out there. They've turned it into a four-wheeler park. But you can run out there. It's great running trails. So and you can get a lot of elevation. That's one of the only places around here that you can get some good elevation. Because Ohio's Backyard, I think their trail section's kind of tough. I mean, after a while, obviously.
Yeah, it's got some good little climbs in it.
Yeah, that one big hill.
I mean, I'm sure the weather in November is probably warmer than the weather when it normally is.
Yeah, it wasn't that bad that year. What took me out was my IT bands. My body just, I wanted to do something, that I'd never done before, and I wanted to see how far I could go, and I literally went till I couldn't go, and 83 miles was it that day.
And congratulations, that's a huge PR to go from, you do a 12-hour race and get 53 miles, and then you turn around and do 80 plus miles at a Backyard Ultra, which is a totally different format and something you were not used to.
Yeah, because a lot of people ask me, I don't know if a lot of people, if they haven't been to one, to crew, or if they haven't seen them, I think they don't realize that it's not just go till you drop. You're on someone else's time, on their bells and whistles, like that hour. You don't, like in a regular 100-miler, I had time to sit out for an hour and 45 minutes and like get myself together and problem solve. You don't have time to problem solve in a Backyard Ultra. 10 minutes maybe,
You learn real quick why it's called a poop loop.
Yep.
Yes, you do. Well, those porta potties fill up quick.
Yes, they do. That's the thing about a last man standing. You need to have like 14 porta potties because you just know how long you're going to be there.
You just don't shine your light in there, you just look straight ahead.
Yeah. So how did the fueling and stuff go for that very first one? Did you have any issues?
Honestly, I was self-crewed for like the first bit, and then a friend came out and crewed me for the next few hours. But I just ate like powdered donuts and Coke, ramen. I didn't really do any gels or anything. I just ate real food because I felt like, you're going so slow in that event. You have time to actually digest food. And I think for me, I don't know about other people, but for me, it was better just to eat real food. And as far as that went, I really wasn't sore. So that was kind of different. It was just my IT bands completely were done. Like I was limping, kind of dragging my leg a little bit. I was just as far as my body could go that day. And then I started doing more strength work. So, November 2020 was my first backyard. And then we turned around in 2021 and had it in March when it's supposed to be. Mm-hmm. And so I didn't have, I was able to build off of that, and I had a pretty decent
Yeah.
run on that one.
108 miles, right?
Mhm.
What's funny is like that shows you the competitiveness of a backyard ultra. You run 83 miles in 2020 and you get third place.
Mhm.
You
Yeah.
run 108 miles the following 5 months later?
Yeah.
Run 108 and get fourth place.
Yeah.
Like that's what's really cool is like just seeing the progression of how things. Yeah, it's so much fun. But congratulations there. That's your first official 100-miler.
Mhm. Yeah.
That
It was awesome. I did have stomach issues on that one. So, 108 counted, but I did go back out. And you know how at backyard you do 2 loops to make it 4.166, whatever. During that second loop, I was having some issues and I ended up, when I came back into camp after the first loop, I had to be done because I was having some stomach issues.
Yeah, so that's one thing that's different about Ohio. The road section is a 4.1 mile out and back.
Yeah.
The actual trail, it's 2.05 mile loop twice. You run right back in and then go back again. That makes it extremely difficult.
So it's kind of like Matt.
Kind of, yeah. You literally run right back to the start. You go right back through the finish line and out again. So it's when things like when things go wrong, people just don't finish their lap. They just
stop there. They're done.
And I did that. I mean, that was one of the things. I'm like, oh, okay, there's my camp. I'm feeling terrible. I'm done. So.
Well, that's the thing. It's like you said it best earlier, and that is you're on somebody else's time. And when you're running in the backyard, it's people will ask me, like, they'll say, what are you running? I'm like, last man standing. They're like, oh, you just run till you stop. And I'm like, kind of, and you have to explain all that. But like,
it is difficult to explain.
Until you've actually done it, it doesn't ever you don't understand how hard it truly is.
Yeah.
Because that one lap that you bonk or you have GI issues and you get out of the woods or whatever, you're done.
Yep.
You're absolutely done. There's nothing you can do about it.
Can't get back out there. Like I saw a guy last year. I didn't run it last year because I had a horrible this year, I should say. 2024, I did not run Backyard Ultra, but we went out to spectate. And I was there when Jen Russo won, and she's a phenomenal person. But one of the guys I know, he was done. He just came back into camp. They were on the road section, and he just came over to the fire section and sat down at camp, and he was done. But then everybody went back out. Within 5 minutes, he was like, man, this sucks. I feel good now. I could be out there running. But the time's up.
Yep. And that's the hard part. It really is. And I don't know how cold it was that year. We'll get into
they had good weather this past year.
The one time I did it was probably like the coldest it's been, but I think it's been cold again, right?
2022 was pretty bad because it got so slick in the start-finish corral there where camp was that you could not stand up. Like it was just slick. The mud was slick. You couldn't hardly stand up on it. But as far as weather goes, the year you did it was the worst I've experienced there. That was the coldest.
I don't even remember what year I did it.
That was 2023.
2020.
Because Tara Dower was in my tent. She actually got on. I didn't even know who she was. She got on the SEOTR page and said, hey, I want to do, this is going to be my first Backyard Ultra. I don't have, a tent or anything. Does anybody want to share a tent with me? And no one was responding. And I'm like, hey, you can share a tent with me. Just send me your contact information. And Tanner's going to be in a tent. And so it'll be me, you, and Tanner. And Lenny set up 2 tents. And in fact, a little tornado of wind came through because, you could set up the night before. So at midnight, we took all of our stuff and set up, but I had to work that Friday. So I went on to work, and several people, including Michael Owen and Tanner messaged me, and they're like, our tent's destroyed. Like, the wind came through and completely, like, scattered all of our stuff everywhere. Like a little tornado came through. It's gone. So we had to go reset back up later that evening.
That's the good thing about a backyard is you at least come back and you can do that, you know,
Yes.
like
Yes.
going. So let's jump into so you do the backyard ultras, and then you do I wanted to talk about this one race real quick because, you know, it's close to us.
Yeah.
It's kind of in between for both of us, I guess.
Mhm.
But Strolling Jim.
Yes.
How was
That race was amazing. I had no idea how Hilly, I mean, I'd heard, you know, that. Have you done it before?
We've done Ball State, which runs some of the
Through
courses.
there? Okay. It's beautiful country, like absolutely gorgeous. And I love hills. Like, that is something I love to do. Like, there's this big hill here in Ashland called Ashland Avenue. When I'm actually training and I'm healthy and I'm able to train well, that's the hill that I do repeats on. Love it. And I did 10 of those to prepare for Strolling Gym. It's like a half a mile hill with 200 and some feet of elevation each time you go up it. And that's what I would train on. Yeah, meeting Laz was interesting. He just said, you know, basically, I asked him, I'm like, do you have any advice? And he's like, well, when you feel like you're not running fast enough, just run faster. I was like, okay, I got it.
That sounds just like Laz.
Yeah, as he was smoking his cigarette.
And he probably had this little bitty smirk as he said it.
He did. He just kind of grinned and smiled a little bit. But yeah, that was a great race. I would love to go run it again. I'd like to, once I get healthier and back in shape, because I don't feel like I'm in shape right now. But I definitely love to go run that race again.
Yeah, I would like to do that one at some point for sure. I think that'd be a fun race to do. I've not got a chance to do it, but it's definitely on my list.
Yeah, it's an iconic race around here.
I mean, you basically need somebody to car crew you or on a bike maybe, because all they have is just gallon water jugs sitting at the aid stations. There's no people at aid stations. It's like just jugs of water there, and you know, so, but car crewing, a lot of people would just drive up several miles and park and then, you know, exchange gels and your hydration or whatever, and you just go.
Yeah. Sounds like a mini Ball State.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now that race sounds interesting too. That does.
It's something you should definitely put on your bucket list.
It's
Yeah.
interesting.
You know, and it's you know, we won't get into all that on here, but like it's definitely a race that you should check out. And at some point on your list, and you know, it's if you got a friend that you could do it with that would want to do it with you, like it's something that you'll never forget.
No, you won't. I think a lot of people should do it just because
life-changing.
It is different.
It's an experience, isn't it?
Yeah,
Well,
it's not a race.
Yeah.
It should never be called a race. It's not a race. Like it, obviously people do race it to win, but that's cool. But at the same time, like the experience you get and just the humbleness and
Right. Yeah.
it's just an experience that you will never forget, whether you're first or last. It doesn't matter.
That sounds like something I would be interested in for sure.
And what's crazy is you'll see that it's like, you know, 100 something people doing it every year. 70 of them are the same people every year, or 50, you know, like it's crazy to see like the following.
Probably form this community, and that's, I know I talk a lot about Backyard Ultra, but that's what draws me back there. It's the people. Like, I mean, those people feel like family, and that's one of the reasons I like that format of race, because you need those people out there to get you farther, and that's the beauty of it.
Yeah, it's team. That's, you know, this community is pretty awesome. So that's what's cool too. Like, you know, just like you all letting, you know, Tara just, you know, don't know her from anybody, sharing a tent with her.
I mean, she's incredible. I'm like, you're a superstar. You didn't tell me this. Like, you're over here breaking big time records here, lady. But yeah. But I feel like she's my friend. Like, I called Tara up today. Like, we had she's an amazing person. Take the running aside, if she never broke any record, this girl's amazing, you know?
Absolutely. There's so many wonderful people in this community. And just to learn everybody's story is so cool.
Mm-hmm.
That's why me and Matt do this. It's fun for us to do this podcast. So, question.
Mm-hmm.
We're already talking about this 2023 Backyard Ultra. So it was obviously, it was funny. As I was talking to Alicia, and she sends that picture today, and we share it, like, back so many memories because it was so cold. But the one thing I will never, ever, ever, ever forget, and we had Tara on here and we talked about this too.
Probably like 80 miles in, maybe.
Yeah. So it's completely dark, and we're on the road section, and obviously it's quit snowing, it's quit hailing, there's no more rain. It's just depressing cold.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was like with the windshield, it was like 7 degrees, Matt. It was awful. Like, it was so cold, people would not talk. Like, we were just running.
Your face was frozen, like, you couldn't.
But you come out of the driveway and you turn onto the road.
Mm-hmm.
And as you come down the driveway and then you go to turn on the road, there's a guy completely naked in assless leather chap. And that is all.
He had his little lights, and his music going.
Green Christmas lights all the way around him in a circle on the ground.
I think he might have been playing Rhinestone Cowboy, maybe.
And let me tell you, he was shaking everything that would move.
He's 62 years old.
Well, he moves good.
He does, yeah.
So
Yeah, he actually lives, he's an engineer, and I said one day, I'm like, yeah, he lives like a mile from my house, and because we run together of the mornings, and he's one of my best friends, actually, and he's a hoot. He's a great runner too, and
awesome.
Yeah, he was our crew. He'd kill me for saying this. I always tease him. I think he has a foot fetish because,
we heard him. Sarah talked about the foot fetish.
Did she? Okay, because he was like rubbing her feet, and I'm like, so I call him up. His name's Jeff. He's going to kill me for saying this. I'm not going to tell him about this podcast.
Just say no last name. No last.
I'm not, because he'd kill me. But
I love it. I'm getting like.
I had to tell him.
This has been
about her breaking this Appalachian Trail record. I'm like, you touched her feet. Like, I mean, you have to be like over the moon about that, But yeah, I really think she probably told you he probably has a foot fetish.
Yeah, he rubbed her feet for a long time, and what's funny
is
she's like,
she liked it.
She's like,
he's good, because let me tell you, Lenny was rubbing my feet because we were both in the tent together, and I'm looking over at Tara, and I'm kind of getting jealous because like he's doing a better job, and so I was like, Lenny, rub her feet, and Jeff rub mine.
That's what she said. She's like, at first it like really weirded me out.
But he's really good at it. He really is.
I liked it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what has this been like? 5 months in the making of this whole story?
Oh, since we started this podcast.
I mean,
well, I actually watched your podcast with Josh Laker when you were talking to him about it, and y'all were talking about it, and I'm like, they don't even know like who this is.
So running partner. Can we pay him to do this at other races?
I'm sure he would do it for free. He told me, he's like, I just know, it's cold out there. I'm going to do something to because he loves to pace people, and he hated the backyard format because he couldn't be out there pacing, and so he's like, what can I do to kind of lighten the mood and kind of energize the people again? Like, people thought they were hallucinating, and then they came back, back to camp, and they're like, I saw this guy in assless chaps with like lights and Rhinestone Cowboy stuff, out in the cold. And we were all like, yeah, we saw it too. Like it was real. You weren't hallucinating.
And what was so funny, and I think I said this maybe with Sarah. We had Sarah Baker on.
Sarah Baker.
But
yeah.
What was funny
She's
is
awesome. I love her too.
We were talking because I think at that point me and Sarah were running side by side. Mm-hmm. And everybody was just kind of quiet, but every now and then someone would say something, we'd laugh or talk, but it was very quiet. It was nothing like it was during the day. But when he was out there dancing, no one said a word that whole lap, did they? It was like We are
They're
not
probably
talking about
like,
this.
they're probably
real?
like, was that real? Did everybody have the same hallucination?
He had to be
Yeah.
so good. Well, tell
He
him.
actually, he's something else.
Did like a photographer, anybody getting pictures of that?
Tara has a video of it. She put it on one of her, if you watch her YouTube video from Ohio's Backyard Ultra, there's a little snippet of him like dancing with the lights. Yeah.
That is
Yeah.
awesome. I didn't even know that. I'm gonna have to check
Yeah,
this out.
that exists.
Well, he deserves an award because that's probably like
I
the
know.
strangest thing I've ever seen in a race. Like so much
I
that I
know.
asked everybody that's ran this
Well,
race.
I've heard this story from Josh, from Kyle,
Yeah.
Tara. Now Alicia, it's pretty famous at this point.
Mhm.
I mean, he deserves like a statue at this point.
I
Like he
agree.
deserves a trophy. I mean, the fact that he was out there in 7-degree weather, 17. I
Mhm.
think it was like 15 degrees with a
It
wind.
was so cold. It was so cold.
And he's out there. The only thing he had on, Matt, I'm not kidding. The only thing was those assless chaps. There was nothing else on, and he was shaking everything that he possibly could with them lights. Like the lights were strung. They were like a circle on the ground, weren't they? It was so funny. And
Well,
here's what's so bad, Alicia, is we run by him. No one says a word. I mean, obviously people are just like shocked.
Mm-hmm.
Like either they're like, yeah, I'm like, I think I might be dying, or that just happened. And then I get back to the tent, Mary's crewing me. I never said a word about it. I forgot. And then like the next day, I think she sees this and she's like, you didn't even tell me that happened. I'm like, I
Was it
forgot.
real?
I was like, I also didn't know, like, I remember seeing him now, but I said everybody kind of blocked it out and no one talked about it, and I forgot by the time we came back.
well, he has done his job. Everybody has talked about him. I'm sure
He's phenomenal.
not just on this podcast, but I'm sure he has been spread
Mhm.
everywhere by this
I
point.
think at some point, Alicia, we just need to, like, we'll get you back on here and we need to have him on. I want to hear the
Yeah.
whole story.
He's a trip. He's a birder. He really loves birds. And like we'll be out on a trail run and he's like, that's a yellow-rumped warbler. And I'm like, okay, but yeah, I get well, I'll probably get, I don't know if he finds out about this, I might not get my yearly Christmas gift, but he always makes me a calendar with all the birds he's photographed through the year.
So should we wait till like January 1st to share this podcast?
It's okay. I'm not going to tell him. But he actually just paced me at Canal Corridor. So,
Well, that's the next race I was actually about to ask you about.
Yeah.
So let's hear it. This is another 100-miler, and looks like you had obviously you did a couple more races in between here. You done Thunder Bunny again, you won Thunder Bunny, and then you do this Canal Corridor. So this is your official second 200-miler.
Yeah.
How did it go?
Well, it went okay. As you know, I was signed up to do Yeti 100-miler. And then the devastation from all the flooding and everything. And we were actually down there, which, we saw you guys at the packet pickup and all that.
You were drinking out of your Yeti glass.
Yes.
I use mine a lot on podcasts.
Yeah. Yeah.
Me and Matt, I think me and Matt a drink every Wednesday. I have for people that don't know, I have a beer glass fetish. I have like 30 beer glasses from all different.
You sound like Lenny. He has all kinds too.
This one has the TriStar. But yeah, it's speaking of Yeti, like a lot of plans changed. When Yeti, we got to talk a little bit at Yeti. That's actually how I talked to Alicia to coming on the podcast, was at Yeti, because we all went to the brewery after the flooding, and Jason and Sam gave us our swag and everything, and beer glasses, and talked to her and for a little while, and we just kind of like all walked around. Then me and Mary left, but everybody chose different routes and different races. Like Brian Zickafoose was messaging me, and I sent him a couple of races, and he ended up going and having a really good performance at another flat race. And it was Canal Corridor.
Yeah,
because he was actually going to do Run Bums, and it got canceled too. But he did Canal Corridor. So Brian, he was like second overall.
That's awesome.
Second place, 14
hours. But that's cool that you did that too. So I went completely opposite and signed up for Ben Hody, and we all know how that went. But Canal Corridor, like that was a good choice for you because you had been training for Yeti, and that's what
Well,
I should have done, but I didn't.
honestly, my training this year, I got pneumonia. And first of all, let me start from January. January, I had flu A. I had this 100-day cough that literally lasted for 100 days. And then I had COVID. And then I don't know if it was, I'm not sure what caused the pneumonia, but I was training for Boston. And I know this is a trail running podcast, but that was a race I was going to do. It was third Boston. And I had pneumonia. I got diagnosed 2 days before we were leaving with what they thought was pneumonia, but I didn't have any scans done or anything like that. It was just listening to me. They put me on antibiotic, put me on steroid, gave me an inhaler. I went to the race. Like my kids and Lenny both said I just sounded horrible, like, like, almost like the death rattle when you lay back and try to breathe. Like my lungs were really junky, but I went, and it wasn't the wisest thing to do, but we were there and I went and I finished Boston. It was probably one of my slowest marathon times I've ever had, but when I got back, I continued to get worse from the pneumonia, and they did a CT scan, and I did have like they call it subsegmental pneumonia in my left lower lung, and so they had to put me on a stronger antibiotic. And I just have had like this post-viral long haul illness that has attacked my lungs probably up until August. I wasn't able to run effectively. I would run and couldn't run fast because I couldn't breathe. And I'm still on a rescue inhaler. I'm on inhaled steroids daily still to this day. And I'm taking another oral medication that helps me with my breathing. So my lungs have taken a hit this year, so it has been rough. So I jumped into a couple of just rail trail marathons to try to see where I was at. I didn't run anything super fast. My best one was like a 3:42 at this it's called Drakewell Marathon in Titusville, Pennsylvania. Really small little race. My training for Yeti was basically 30 miles a week. That was about and I started that in August. But prior to August, I was barely getting 15 to 20 miles a week. And so most people probably wouldn't decide to try to even go to the start line of a 100-miler with that little build up. But, as you know, you sign up for Yeti in January. So when I signed up in January, I was not expecting to get all these illnesses with my lungs. So, and then after I'd accepted that I was going to be running a 100-miler, and then it got canceled because of all the flooding devastation. On the way back home to Ashland, I was looking up to see what races I could do, what was available, because I'd already mentally prepared to do this 100 miles. And so I'm like, let me see what's out there. So I emailed the race director for Canal Corridor, and I said, hey, do you have any discount codes, or is there anything, because it's like 2 weeks. I had 2 weeks, I guess, to kind of get ready for it. And he said, hey, he let me run it for free. He gave me a free entry. So, yeah.
That's a good race director. People saw what happened at Yeti, and that was unfortunate.
Yeah.
And there were
Yeah.
a lot of people that were upset about Yeti. I know that there were messages and people were,
Yeah. I mean, I don't want to have any upset, none of that feeling in my heart towards anything like that. I don't think it could be
and that's
helped.
the thing. It was out of Jason and Sam's control, and like
Yeah.
people asking for refunds.
I don't think
am
anyone.
we're mad as a race director. We
Yeah.
understand the fact that when you show up for the event, like you physically drive there, that money has been spent. You've bought
Yeah.
shirts, you've bought hoodies, you've bought medals. So
Yep.
there is no refund, guys, like period. Now, what I thought was really cool and great was Sam and Jason donated every bit of the food
Exactly.
to the people in Virginia on the trail and in Abingdon. And that's the stuff that is great. The money's been spent.
Yep.
You're not getting a refund.
No.
I'm sorry. It's a natural disaster.
Yeah. Well, and I don't think, like, they were trying to have the race, and I don't think anyone, like me included, or I wouldn't have drove down there. Like, we went through floodwaters to get to our hotel, and Damascus Inn's calling me to say, I'm sorry, turn around. Like, I got 3 phone calls from them. The first time they were like, are you all on your way? It was kind of like just to see. And I'm like, yeah, we're like near Pikeville, Kentucky at this point. And they're like, I don't know. The water keeps rising. They're like, I don't know. And I'm like, well, I'm coming in for this race. And then I get a call a second time, and the little lady, I mean, bless her heart, she was like, they're starting to do evacuations, and you're not going to be able to make it here. And at that point, we were almost into Abingdon. She was like, I'm so sorry, but there's no way you can get here. We're flooding, and we're doing like swift water rescue on people, like this is serious. But I don't think anyone expected, and us included, so I don't know how they can expect the race director to know what Mother Nature is going to throw on people.
Well, what people didn't see was Jason and Sam had already made the decision to postpone the race from Friday to Saturday. So I get there, me and Mary get there on Wednesday, and we're like, my thing was like, I wanted to have a few days to like chill, because where I work is crazy. It's just absolutely crazy. End of the month, first month, it's just crazy. It never works out for me. So I was like, I got to get away. And I get to the race, or, get there on Wednesday. And, Jason and Sam make the decision to postpone the race on Friday and push it Saturday. Great decision, because Friday
the weather was great for Saturday.
Yeah, wind and everything for Friday.
It would have been a disaster to have it on Friday.
Yeah. And so me and Mary go to Damascus Diner on Friday morning. We're just living life. We'd already went sightseeing and saw some of the flooding. It wasn't raining that hard on Friday. It wasn't that bad. It was raining. It wasn't bad. But we go to the Damascus Diner and eat, and Sam's there, one of the other race director with Jason. And here's how hard they tried, Alicia, and this is what people don't understand. They literally like come over to our table because, they obviously know that I'm a race director too, and I start working on, and I'm pretty good with the GPS stuff. So I'm creating routes for Sam. Like, she's trying to figure out how to make this race happen. So I'm like, she's like telling me what she wants to do and distances. So I'm doing this for her and, like sending it to her and just like different sections so that we could see what the distance was. And, spent a good hour doing that. Then, leave. And I'm thinking, okay, regardless, we're having this race.
Having it.
Sam and Jason are on it. Saturday happens, like get up Saturday for the race, and that's just not happening. But hang on, not Saturday.
It was Friday.
Yeah.
We got the 2 emails. We had the first email from Sam, and it was kind of like we're trying to configure.
Yeah. When did we get evacuated? It was Friday, right?
Friday.
Yeah. So Friday morning, maybe it was Thursday morning. Maybe it was Thursday morning. I met with them trying to help. Yeah, that's right. Thursday morning. Sorry. And then Friday morning, I get in, and we're going through all that, but that's when the flooding and all that happens. What's crazy is we all get evacuated. Mary is literally on the phone with Jason as we're getting evacuated. He's in the city meeting with them, trying to figure out how to put the race on to do just half. Yeah. And he's already like, no, we're doing the race. We're going to figure this out. We're going to make it happen. So we're like, okay. So we go to the brewery,
Yes.
And then we get the email shortly afterwards, and too much. Like, and I don't know. Like, I agree with everybody on this piece. Like, I wouldn't have wanted to run at that point. Like, there was just too much devastation.
I think it's hard to. I mean, running just wasn't the most important thing at that moment. There were people who literally lost everything. And how can you go run a race when you're like, people are literally out with chainsaws trying to cut down things to make a path to get out of their homes? And, I don't know. It just wouldn't feel right. I mean,
but the thing about it is like, they tried so hard.
They did.
To make that race happen. And to see all the nasty messages of like people saying they wanted a discount, ruin their weekend, blah, blah, blah. Like, guys, everybody's.
I mean, it was a loss for everyone. And that's like when I emailed the director for Canal, I was like, I was just seeing if he had a discount code, because I just really, I'd spent so much money for Damascus Inn, and I wasn't going to ask them for a refund back. You know what I mean? I just felt bad. Their entire building was flooded. I'm like, okay, that's my contribution to their.
Yeah.
To this, okay, because I think they're back up and running now. but I'm not going to contact them and ask for a refund. I mean, they just lost so much and had so much damage. But then we'd already made it to Abingdon, and I'm like, okay, well, so we booked a hotel in Abingdon, but then the electricity went out there. But I was like, well, I'll just pay for another hotel that has no electricity, but it's all good, somewhere to sleep. I wasn't going to turn around and drive 4 hours back home. So that's why I was just like, we'll just see what happens, make the best of it. And we did light candles in our hotel.
So, I mean, so Canal Corridor, I mean, you obviously finished. You did it. I mean, you say I understand everything that went wrong, but you still had a day.
It was a decent run. I mean, it's the fastest 100. If I'm just saying 100 miler, the fastest one I've ever done. So that's the the cool thing about that. But it wasn't the same type of a run as Tuscazor. It was definitely, it's a canal run. But I'm going to tell you, it hurt so bad. Probably because of my lack of training, but also I have this little injury where I'd lifted a patient probably back in July, and I have like an adductor tear. And so when I did the race, probably about 60 miles in, I mean, no matter if I'm running 1 mile or 100 miles, this thing hurts. Like, it's a chronic thing. I'm actually getting an MRI on Friday to make sure I don't have like a fracture going on there. Maybe if I avulsed something, because it doesn't matter what distance, but the distance makes it hurt more intense, if that makes sense. So during Canal Corridor, I ran pretty conservative, had a good time. The weather was great in the beginning. I picked up Jeff. He was my pacer. So yeah, just regular clothes this time. No chaps, just a neon shirt. But he did make me stop to take pictures with some blue heron thing that's in the river.
You're gonna
get and any bird. Yeah, I'm like, okay, Jeff, let's, not bird moment. Yeah. Yeah. So, but like probably mile 60, this pain was bad where it was getting in my head, and I started speaking about it. Normally I don't say anything. I just try to keep it to myself because, when you've heard other people say, you start voicing things, it's like you focus on it more. So I finally spoke up about it, and I'm like, okay. And I told him about the injury. I was like, I've got this chronic thing. I hadn't ever told him about it. I'm like, but I have an adductor tear. I may have avulsed something from the bone. I said, but right now, every step I take, it feels like my pubic bone is just going to snap. Like, the pain is unreal. And I get to mile 60 and we turn around. We go to Cleveland. So in this race. And so there's that urban section there, which was cool to see the city when you're coming into Cleveland.
Awesome.
It was. It's a really pretty race. We actually saw a wedding going on, like on the canal, like there was a wedding happening. I think Jeff tried to get some drinks from the wedding, because these people were getting married right at the aid station, basically. But then, let's see, mile 70, the pain kept getting worse, and I had a moment where I told Jeff I thought I was going to drop out of this race. The pain was so intense, and Lenny was at that aid station, had me a chair. I sat down at the chair, and I was just in immense pain, and I was being a big baby. I kept saying, I just want to go home and snuggle with Lenny. It's cold, and it was getting ready to start pouring the rain, and I was like, I just want to go home and snuggle with Lenny. And Jeff's like, okay. He's like, I don't know. Yeah, basically. It's like, you hear that bird. But anyways, there was this lady. So, it's an out and back. You go all the way out to Cleveland, and I'd come back to mile 70. So I'm heading back toward the finish line area. Well, there's still runners heading to Cleveland. And there's this lady that her daughter sits her down, has her chair, and she sits down next to me. And I'm crying. I'm being a big baby right now. I'm like, I'm in so much pain. Every step I take, my bone's just going to snap. And I'm hugging Lenny, and he won't make that decision for me. He believes that, and I think that's good advice. If you're crewing somebody or pacing somebody, it's got to be their decision, I think. I mean, because you want them to be mad at themselves, not you. So anyways, this lady, she sits down next to me, and she's still heading to Cleveland. You know, I'm like 20 miles ahead of her, and she's still got to go 10 to get to 60 and then come back to get to that point where I'm at. And she's still going, you know. She sits down next to me, and it's her daughter taking care of her and crewing her, and her husband is her pacer. And she said, go mommy, go daddy, you know, you got this. And the lady looks at me, and she said, hang tough. And I was like, so I look at her daughter, and I said, is that your mom? And she said, yes. She said, she's actually the oldest female running this race. And it's her 14th 100 miler. And she wants to get into Western States so bad, she just can't give it up. And I was like, I looked at Lenny, and I was like, I stood up, and I'm like, I got to keep going. That lady like gave me strength, you know, because I mean, here she is. I'm 20 miles ahead of her, crying like a baby, and she still has to go all the way to Cleveland and come back, and she's encouraging me, telling me to hang tough, you know. So in that right there, I said, I'm just going to get up and I'm going to walk, and then if I feel like running, I'll run. And so I made it to mile 80. You have to go up a hill to get to that aid station. It started pouring the rain, like acorns were hitting you, you know, like it was pretty intense rain. In fact, I passed the guy. It was raining so hard. He had found this cardboard box. He didn't have a rain jacket, and he like had this cardboard box over his head and his body. And he's like, where's the next aid station? I felt bad for him. But anyways, I ended up making it to the finish line of that one. And actually, you know, so it's kind of cool when you have that moment where you, like, in that moment, I really thought I was done. I thought that was all I had, like 70 miles was it. And that lady looks at me and tells me to hang tough. And something about knowing that she still had to go all the way to Cleveland, and I'm already this far ahead, and she's encouraging me, just, it gave me the strength to keep going. So.
Yeah, well, that's pretty awesome.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's one thing I think that's really cool about Rails to Trail. We do a little bitty Rails to Trail race. Nothing like 100 miler. Our longest is it's a 55K.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But we have a couple that comes out, and they're in their 80s.
Yep.
I love that.
And it's so awesome. Like his wife, you know, she may not always do the 55K. Sometimes she does the 11 or whatever. But she, you know, she was talking to us last time, and like, he's got a run coach. He still trains every day. It's so cool. And like, that is the thing that like I see that at the end, like I hope like in 30 years from now,
Mm-hmm.
I'm still running an ultra, because like, that's the thing. Like it's so cool to just see that this is a sport that you can do for as long as you want, as long as you take care of yourself.
Mm-hmm. I know. I need to learn that better. We both need to learn that a little bit better.
Yeah. I got to stop sometimes. I'm doing better. You know, I don't do a race every month anymore. So I've stepped back, but I've been really clumsy here lately. That's been my problem.
I get it.
Mile 1 of Pinhoti, roll my ankle. You know, like, come on. I hear those stories, but like mile 1.
That's just unfortunate, really. I mean, did you ever get an MRI or see like what was going on specifically? Did you tear your ATFL or anything?
That's a whole nother story. So I called yesterday to get the MRI, and they didn't return. They put me on hold for 20 minutes instead of
That's frustrating.
So I went and saw my guy, and he checked my foot, you know, moved everything around, and actually cleared me to start running and walking slowly. He said everything looked good. Don't worry about the MRI right now. We'll work on mobility. It is healing really fast, but like, I've been aggressively like focused on it. So I do like my 10 3 to 4 times a day. I've been doing stretches. You know, me and Mary work on like hot and cold immersion. So you know, it's been really trying to get it healthy. And now I've started riding I started cycling.
Yes.
Which they told me to keep doing that because of the motion to help break all that up. But he also told me to start scraping that area.
Yeah, I have one of those tools because you probably tore your ATFL. That's if it's laterally on your ankle, because I'm clumsy too. I wish I could say I was doing Pinhoti when I did mine. I was literally running in town on a sidewalk, like not even a mile in, and my ankle hits this little hole and snaps over, just
Mm,
bam, hits it.
mm.
And I knew it was bad when I couldn't walk on it. And I thought I broke it, but after an MRI, it was a completely ruptured ATFL. And that's what, but that was when I was in the boot last year. I know you're like thinking this girl's got a lot of injuries and sicknesses, but I was in the boot last year in 2023, and I did a couch to 50 miler because I went straight from the boot and started running again and did JFK 50 miler. But I registered as an anonymous runner on that one, so it doesn't even show up on my ultrasign. But I didn't do like great. It was like I think an 11-minute pace or something for the 50 miles, but like 9 hours and something. But
Well, you finished.
yes, I did after having that ankle issue. Yeah.
Yeah, you're good at these couch to 5 and 50 Ks. Are you think you're gonna ever attempt a couch to 100 miler?
I feel like that's what I just did with my 20 to 30 miles per week
Yeah, that's
to now corridor. But I really do want to, I feel like I'm in a better place right now to start actually training and getting stronger. So I've been healthy, so that's good.
That's one thing I've definitely got to do. I got to start training soon too, because I've already signed up for a race in March. So that's my goal.
Exciting.
And I believe in scraping. I do scraping.
Yeah.
Like scraping, that just
Yeah.
fun. We'll see what it feels like. I haven't actually done it yet. I'm gonna try it tonight.
I
But we'll
like
see.
it. I like it. It feels pretty good.
Say I actually like it too,
I just don't know about doing it on that spot.
on that area where it's tender.
I'll scrape my calves and stuff all the time. Like I think that's great, but I can't. We'll see.
Have Mary do it.
So I see that you're signed up for Ohio's Backyard Ultra already in 2025. Is that your big race, or do you have an A race that you're really wanting to try to do in 2025?
I definitely want to look for another 100 miler. I don't know what it is yet. I know I got the email about Yeti. We can sign up, now. I'm considering that. I'm not sure 100% what I want to do. I do want to get some of my speed back because I'm not where I was sick this past year. I haven't been able to do much speed work, so I've lost a little bit of that. So I would definitely like to do another 50 miler and another 100 miler. I just don't know exactly what yet. Obviously, I'd love to get into Western States with my one little ticket, but Charlie got into the chocolate factory with one ticket, so it's possible, right?
There you go. That's a good way to look at it.
Yeah, that's what Lenny told me whenever I said I only have one ticket. He was like, "Hey, Charlie got in there with one ticket. You might get in."
Lenny's got a great sense of humor.
Lenny's fun. He's a lot of fun. Yeah.
Okay, so let's we'll be following along, see if you get into Western States. When did they do that draw?
It's Saturday, so we'll have to. Yeah.
Well,
I mean, it's really slim. It's really slim, but
hey,
that would be awesome.
Your tickets keep doubling.
Yeah.
You just got to keep doing it.
I guess I need to look for another Western States qualifying race because I need to keep building the tickets. So that's the goal. I just don't know what yet.
You'll find something. Yeah, I've actually already signed up for 3 Yeti races. So I did that package thing. So I'm actually in Yeti 100.
Okay, I gotcha.
Yeah, doing Yeti 50, Yeti 100, and something
I'm
hollow.
doing
Anchored.
Yeah.
No,
not Dark Anchor, something hollow, but I can't remember what it's called.
I don't know what it is either.
Troublesome Hollow, maybe?
You go.
That one?
That's it.
Yeah.
So
I've never done that one, but I followed it. What is it now?
About Yeti 100?
I am. I'm considering it. I mean, my experience at Damn Yeti, I had a good experience. I love the trail. It's beautiful. You can go fast.
Yeah.
You got to be careful, obviously, on that downhill section. Don't kill it too hard or it'll get you. But yeah, I'd like to go back there and support that community too. I think that's
Absolutely. What about you, Matt? Have you picked a 100 miler out yet?
No business.
No, that's a good one. I've not done it, but it's on my radar.
And then there's that new one that's in our backyard. that starts down there at the Ocoee Whitewater Center, Forest Service Road 100. So
Boy, I bet that's got some elevation.
oh, it's
Yeah.
got it's pretty hilly, but it's in our backyard, so I like doing stuff local.
I do too. In fact, I'm doing a 10-mile race. Meeks Mountain. I don't know if you've heard. It's like a little. They have that. Okay, the Hurricane. It's in Hurricane, West Virginia. They call it Hurricane, but it's spelled like hurricane. Hurricane. But it's 100K, and then they have a 100K relay. I actually did the relay this year. So that was a lot of fun. And they're doing a 10-mile run on that same trail system in February. It's called the Crush Run, run with your crush.
Cool.
Yeah. And so that's probably only 40 minutes away from me as well. So I'm going to do that. Maybe do the 100K, and that's in August or September for the Hurricane 100K. And there's some cash money to win there. So you might want to look into that.
Yeah. I've already signed up for too many races around
Too
that
many?
time. Yeah, because I'm doing Yeti 100, and I'm planning on doing No Business because I got to go. This is finally my year to go the reverse way to get my other medal.
So for No Business, is that one in October?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's it's Brian and Shelly Gages. They're good race directors. They actually put on the race that I'm running in March. I think Matt's probably going to run it too. The
Now,
Pistol.
what race are you doing in March?
The Pistol.
Pistol?
Yep, and they have I have multiple options all up to 100-miler, and I'm doing the 100-miler. I'm not sure what Matt's.
It won't be a 100-miler because I got Knoxville Marathon attached to that,
but No
I've
Business.
always wanted to do Knoxville Marathon. I'm actually from Bell County, Pineville, Kentucky.
Okay.
That's where I grew up. That's my hometown. So Knoxville wasn't very far away. I'm not sure if y'all know where that's at.
You should.
Out of all the marathons that I've done, Knoxville has been my favorite, and not just because it's local. It does make it better because we're here and that, but like I don't know, all rest of them they seem like they send you out in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
You got to come back, and it wasn't as fun.
I've actually never ran it, so at some point maybe.
You're missing out. You really are.
I'm retired. I did one marathon. I'm retired.
He's like, I'm done with those road marathons.
The only way I'll run another one is if Nick Morgan makes me. So if he holds me to it. I think Nick has fell off the training wagon.
Nick's got to get back on the training wagon before.
He's getting called out right now. I don't even know who he is, but he's getting called out.
Oh, you'll meet Nick at some point if you run enough races. He's an amazing photographer.
Okay.
He takes pictures for No Business. He takes all the pictures for our events. He does a lot of the Run Bum pictures.
Mm-hmm.
He's been featured in several of the magazines. Him and Misty both. They both are from the Knoxville area.
Okay. I need to run more races toward your all's direction.
Yeah, if you ever do, let us know. We'll be glad to tell you some good events going on around here because there's a lot of good races and good race directors around this area.
Yeah.
We started getting a lot more Kentucky folks down this way.
Mm-hmm.
Andrew and Ryan, and then
Casey
and then Josh. So we've got a lot starting to come down this way.
Yeah.
And Alicia.
Awesome.
Yeah,
she'll be next.
Yep.
I'll be coming down.
Alicia, let's switch over to questions for a few minutes.
Okay.
I don't want to take your whole night up on this podcast. So, but the very first question we ask everybody is, why do you run? What keeps you going? What motivates you? Like, why do you continue to do it?
I think at this point, I'm afraid of what'll happen if I stop. I know that sounds crazy. Because everybody's always like, you got to know your why. When you're deep in the miles, you got to know your why. And I still don't know. I don't know why I do it. I still don't. I don't know. I don't know what there's just this pull that gets you up to make you go run, like this drive, this desire. And I really don't know exactly why or what it is that makes you do it, other than I'm really afraid to not be doing it. I don't want to go back to the Alicia that wasn't healthy, Maybe that's why. I think it's just there's so much, I don't know.
Well, and I think the one thing you said in the very beginning is part of it too, is that
Oh, absolutely.
You're competitive and you push yourself to want to be better.
Yeah.
Do you think you continue to do some of it because of your friend?
Absolutely. Yeah. When you think about where he was and what he was able to do and how much joy it gave him. And then, he wanted to pass that on to me. And, I think about people with the mental health issues, like we all have them. We all have those moments where, life's just tough. You're going through a difficult time. And I think about people who are struggling with a dark time, if they could just find the right trail, if they could just find the right place to go out there and move, it could save their life,
Yeah. Well, and, that's the one thing about this community. It doesn't matter. Most of the trail community, for the most part, that I've ever been involved in multiple different states, it's all kind of the similar. It's opening, it's welcoming, the kindness, and the camaraderie is just amazing. And, people are just open and accept you for who you are, and help you and want to see you do your best.
Yes.
And that is such a huge draw for anybody that's, if you're struggling, you don't feel like you have a family, like you can find a family with a bunch of misfit runners. Like we're all out here doing this thing, and it's kind of fun to see that family continue to grow.
Yeah, definitely my running people. I mean, they are my family. When Lenny had these 2 big surgeries back to back and I had to be at work, Jeff and our friend Greg, 2 of our running friends, are the ones that took him to PT, because it was his right leg. He couldn't drive. And I mean, that's amazing to have people like that have your back, or that want to come crew you. Like, what an honor to have somebody that wants to take up their weekend to come feed you snacks and cheer you on or heckle you or whatever it is they do, that gets you going. That's pretty cool.
Very special, and it's something you'll never forget. That's a great point, Alicia. So I'm glad you brought that up. All right, Mr. Williams, let's see what kind of crazy questions that we have
not too many,
Alicia.
Not too many crazy.
Okay.
Nothing crazy?
No. The first one is, out of all the events you've done so far, what has been your favorite distance? People want to know this stuff for some reason. I think they're like trying to decide what's their next race going to be.
I really like the 100-miler for some reason. And I know it sounds silly because you feel like you can finish. I don't know. I feel like I can finish a marathon. I feel like I can finish 50 miles. 100 miles is still something, I don't know. Sometimes I don't know if I'm going to finish it or not. I'm going to get to that place. There's something about getting to that place where you just are at rock bottom and somehow claw your way out of it and are able to turn it around. I like that distance.
Well, you've definitely been able to crawl out of it multiple times, so I'm pretty impressed with that.
Yeah.
What has been your favorite event?
Backyard Ultra, OBU. It's the people, definitely.
Leather chaps and all.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
And the last question that I have is, if you come up to an aid station and you got to choose, would it be salty or sweet?
Salty. Salty, 100%.
So I have a question for you.
Yeah.
So you had said back in your collegiate time, you were a cheerleader.
Yes.
Were you a cheerleader in high school too? Like
I was. Yes, I cheered All-Stars in high school in Corbin, Kentucky, because where I grew up, they didn't have an All-Star team, but I would go to the gymnastics place in Corbin, Kentucky called Damar Gymnastics, and that's where I learned how to do round-off handspring pulls. I started doing some co-ed partner stunning there. So, yeah, I went and tried out for Morehead State and made it, and they're a great team. They're national champions several times.
So when you're doing collegiate cheerleading,
Mm-hmm.
do you still do all of the sports too?
Football, basketball was the 2 sports that we cheered for in college.
I don't know a whole lot about that in college as far as like being a cheerleader, obviously, but I would imagine that's extremely busy.
It was like having a full-time job while trying to go to college at the same time. So that was difficult.
Yeah, because, just thinking about it, like you have competitions
Mm-hmm.
for cheerleading.
Yep.
practice for cheerleading, but then you also have to go to all of
Yeah.
the games.
Yeah.
So I would imagine
Pep
that.
rallies, they still had like pep rallies sometimes, pep rally events in the community. And did a lot of community service things, with the younger cheerleaders in the area. I also coached gymnastics. I was a gymnastics instructor at Jim Dandy's in Moorhead, Kentucky. I had a team that I would take to nationals as well. So that's why I said I did not have a running background. It just didn't seem exciting enough. But then, once I started moving in that way, and getting on the trails is not boring at all, when you're running next to a ledge, and as clumsy as I am, I'm surprised I haven't fallen yet. Like, I fall a lot on trails, but I mean like something bad.
Have you ever thought about like going and grabbing a piece of bacon and doing like 2 backhand springs away?
That would be cool.
Of course, you might want to do that early on to the race.
Yeah. I haven't tumbled in a long time.
Feel like Emmanuel at the end of the dirt circuit out there break dancing on his 100th mile lap.
Yeah,
Wow.
we had
Tear
one of
something.
the guys on our team, Emmanuel. He is so funny. So this is a loop course we do. It's at the dirt circuit, and Nick is out there taking pictures. We just talked about Nick, and Emmanuel has been like secretly planning on this break dance to celebrate his lap, and like because he won the 100-miler and he got
That's
his belt,
incredible.
and he did. Yeah, he won, right?
He won the medal, yeah.
Yeah, and he gets to Nick and starts to do this break dance, and it's so funny. It's on Nick put all the pictures on there, but you see him start to do this break dance, and then you see him start to break down.
Oh, no.
And he just stops, and he's like froze, and he's like trying to get up, and then he's laughing, and it was so funny just to see like the whole. Nick did a good job of taking the pictures, but you see at one point Emmanuel's like,
yeah, he almost didn't make it back for his 100th lap.
Oh my gosh.
Well, Alicia, thank you so much. This has been so much fun, and it's truly been an honor to learn your story and to hear all the struggles you went through, in your 20s and through birth and then having the reoccurrences. So thank you for sharing all that. I know that's hard sometimes to bring all that stuff up and talk through it again, but thank you so much. And last thing is, do you have any questions for us?
No, just if you guys need to come up with me a 100-miler that I should do, maybe. Any race recommendations?
Yes,
in your area.
There's actually quite a few good ones around here, but No Business is definitely a good one.
Yeah.
If you want to trail, is another good one. If you want to do the road, those are both by the same race director. But there's also there's some 100Ks and 50Ks that are around here. There's some loop courses. We put on some loop courses as well. Tony and Kathy with Magic Number Events do some loop courses. And then we do the Cherokee, which is one of our newer races in the Cherokee National Forest. It's 130K and a 70K. What else we got around here, Matt? I'm trying to think what's local. Of course, we got the Chattanooga. We got some Chattanooga races. There's Lookout 50, which is a good mountain race in December. And then there's David Lane. He has Mad Backyard Ultra. January. LC Enduro is in February. Those are 2 awesome last man standing.
2 of my favorite.
LC Enduro in February. It's a very unique take on a backyard ultra. Yeah. It's a 2.7 mile loop in 40 minutes.
I gotcha.
With 400 or 500 feet of elevation gain per loop. The race is yet to make 100 miles.
It's got some pretty good participants this year. On and Kyle have, I believe, both signed up for that.
Well, and Mad Backyard is another.
Are you talking about Ron Wireman and Kyle Calvis?
Yep. Yeah. That's cool. I didn't know that Ron had signed up.
He signed up because I was looking at it the other day.
We've talked about that race enough on here. I hope people are.
Everybody should know it by now.
Yeah, I'll definitely watch out for that.
And then Becca Jones, John Cox, they have a little race that's near Nashville, Tennessee, and it's actually in Franklin, I believe.
Franklin, yep.
But it's Mid-State Mile.
I've heard about Mid-State Mile because I listen to Chad Wright sometimes. I listen to his podcast. He's edgy. I like that. I like his voice too. I like your all's voice too. I know we're just Southern people, and I just love to hear it. Feels like home, It feels like my people.
But they also have another race that they do that's a timed event. So Mid-State Mile is the last man standing.
Mm-hmm.
They have a loop course on that same course that's called the Tennessee Mile, and it's in December.
It's coming up this weekend.
But another good race director that's kind of closer to you, over towards that Nashville area, I guess that's probably a little closer to you, depending on what part of Kentucky you're in. But, you got another good one is John Harden for Hardwin Adventures. He does Black Toe, Fiery Gizzard, Natchez Trace. There's a lot of races that he puts on around that area. He's another good race director. But when you get ready, you let us know. We'll help guide you in that direction. And another good race in the middle of the summer, like early fall, would be Georgia Jewel. They got a 50 miler and a 100 miler, and it's on the Pinhoti, but it's a different section. I've done that one multiple times. Matt's that was his first 100-mile trail race.
Trail 100.
So when you get ready, let us know.
But it was fun. It was tough. It was fun.
Oh, and then, we got a couple of friends that are running, you got Marcia and Matt Blankenship that are running a Fall Creek Falls 100 this weekend.
Yep.
Another race that's local.
Awesome.
We'll pick your brain when we get ready to come to Kentucky, and when you're ready to come to Kentucky, you let us know. There's all right. Well, Alicia, thank you so much. We appreciate your time.
Well, thank you guys for having me. It's been fun.
It has been a pleasure. And the puppy was pretty quiet. We didn't hear it at all.
Yeah, he's down here at my feet right now. He's being good.
He's waiting to get that toy back.
I took all his toys from him.
He's like, it would be good. I get the toys back.
Yeah.
He's waiting for the podcast over. He's like, oh. Well, Alicia, thank you. Truly, it's been so much fun. We appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.